Welcome to the third and the final lecture on literary theory. We stopped the last time on integration of theory. Do not relegate the theory to a separate theory section. Instead, wave theoretical concepts through your analysis using them as interpretive tools. Explain how your theoretical lens reveals the meanings that other approaches might miss. Show your theory and work rather than merely describing it conclusions with implications. Synthesize your argument without merely repeating it. Address the so what question. Why does your interpretation matter? What new understanding does it offer? You might connect your textual analysis to broader questions about literature, culture, or human experience. If you argued that a novel's fractured structure reflects modernist alienation, you might conclude by discussing how this technique influenced later writers or what it reveals about early 20th century consciousness. The conclusion should feel like closure, bring your argument to a satisfying end, but also opening outwards to show larger significance. Your interpretation of this particular text should illuminate something beyond itself. Now let's move to using literary terminology effectively. Do and don'ts. Do use technical terms precisely and appropriately. When they clarify your analysis, define specialized terms the first time you use them. Let terminology serve your argument rather than displaying knowledge for its own sake. Vary your vocabulary, do not repeat the same terms excessively. Integrate terms smoothly into your prose. Now let's move to don'ts. Use jargon unnecessarily when simpler language would suffice. Assume readers know specialized theoretical vocabulary, string together terms without explaining them their relevance. The text exhibits intertextuality, heteroglossia, and defamiliarization. Misuse terms if uncertain, check definitions, overwhelm analysis with terminology at expense of insight. The goal is understanding, not vocabulary display. Remember, clarity is more important than sounding academic. You want your reader to understand your argument, not be impressed by your vocabulary. The reader role in interpretation. Throughout this course, we've explored various theoretical approaches to literature, but underlying all of them is the fundamental question: what role does the reader play in creating literary meaning? The question has profound implications for how we understand literature, teaching, and the very act of reading itself, rather than treating texts as containers of fixed meanings that readers merely extract. Contemporary theory recognized reading as an active exchange transaction in which both text and reader contribute to the production of meaning. Understanding your role as a meaning maker rather than a meaning finder transforms how you approach every text you encounter. Your not hunting for the one correct interpretation hidden in the text, waiting to be discovered. You're actively constructing interpretation through engagement with textual features, drawing on your knowledge, experiences, and analytical frameworks. This is empowering your reading materials. It's also responsibility. You must justify your interpretations with evidence and logic. Now let's go to reading as active constructionism or active construction. When you read, you're not passively receiving information like a computer downloading data. Instead, you're actively constructing meaning by drawing on your existing knowledge, filling in gaps, making inferences, forming hypotheses, and revisiting interpretations as you progress through the text. Cognitive science confirms what reader response theory proposed reading is one of the most complex cognitive activities humans perform, requiring consistent interpretation, prediction, and synthesis. Your brain is incredibly active when you read, even though you're sitting still. You're building a mental mood of the story world, tracking multiple characters and the plot threads, registering patterns, making connections. This is active construction, not passive reception. Now let's move to perception. You encounter words, sentences, and structures on the page or screen, perceiving them through your senses. Revision as you continue reading, you confirm, adjust, or completely revise your interpretations based on new information. Processing your brain actively relevant knowledge, memories, and frameworks to make sense of what you're reading. Interpretation, your construct provisional meanings from hypotheses about where the text is going and what it means. The character you thought was heroic turns out to be villainous. The event you thought was central proved to be red herring. Reading as recursive, you loop back through these stages constantly, building and rebuilding your understanding. Recognizing personal biases and cultural influences. Every reader brings biases to texts, not bias in the negative sense of unfair prejudice, but in the neutral sense of particular perspectives, assumptions, and frameworks that shape perception. These biases aren't weaknesses to be eliminated, but rather the inevitable result of being a specific person with unique experience, cultural background, and social positioning. The key is developing awareness of how these factors influence interpretation. The key is developing awareness of how these factors influence interpretation. When you notice that your interpretation differs from someone else, ask what in my background or perspectives might be shaping now I read this. What might someone from a different background notice that I am missing? This self-awareness doesn't eliminate bias, that's impossible, but it makes you a more thoughtful, sophisticated reader who recognizes the professional positioned nature of all interpretation. Now let's move to the cultural frameworks. Your cultural frameworks provides interpretive schemes and patterns for understanding relationships, values, narrative structures and symbols. A reader from an individualistic culture might focus on personal autonomy, while someone from a collective culture notices family dynamics. Neither is wrong. There is attending to different textual elements. Based on different cultural values. Similarly, what counts as a satisfying ending varies culturally. Western readers often expect closure, resolution, individual achievement. Readers from other traditions might value ambiguity, acceptance, or integration into community. These cultural frameworks shape what we notice, what we value, and how we interpret narrative patterns. The important point is recognizing that your cultural framework is one among many, not the universal human perspective, but a particular cultural perspective. This cognitive opens you to how others might read differently, enriching your own interpretation through dialogue with other perspectives. Exhib- exhib- Experiential knowledge. Personal experiences create interpretive sensitivity. A reader who has experienced grief will notice dimensions of loss and texts that others might overlook. Someone familiar with a particular historical period or geographical settings will catch references and nuances others miss. Your experience are resourceful for interpretation, not obstacles. They give you access to certain meanings and emotional resonance. The reader who understands grief deeply can appreciate how a novel captures that experience. The reader who knows betrayal recognizes its authentic representation. However, beware that your experience can also create blind spots. If you never experiences something, you might miss its representation in literature, or you might miss read it. This is why diverse expectations and perspectives in discussions are so valuable. They bring different experiential knowledge that collectively creates a richer understanding. Now let's go for the benefits and the limitations of subjective interpretation. Recognizing reading's subjective dimension has important benefits. It validates diverse interpretations, making literature more inclusive and democratic. It encourages readers to connect texts to their own lives, making literature personally meaningful rather than an abstract academic exercise. It acknowledges that texts can mean different things in different contexts and to different audiences, recognition that expands rather than limits literary meaning. There is no single correct reading waiting to be discovered. Instead, there are more and less persuasive interpretations, more and less insightful readings, more and less rigorous applications of evidence and logic. Subjectively or subjectivity doesn't mean anything that goes. It means we must be more thoughtful, more self aware, and more responsible in our interpretive practices. However, subjectivity has limits. While readers contribute to meaning making, texts also constrain interpretation. You cannot reasonably claim Pride and Prejudice is about space exploration or that Hamlet endorses indecisiveness. The text provides evidence that supports some readings and contradicts others. Literary interpretation requires justification, explaining how textual evidence supports your claims and why your reading is more persuasive than alternatives. You must show your work. Here is what the text says. Here is how I understand it. Here is why this interpretation makes sense of more textual features than competing interpretations. This doesn't mean there is only one correct reading. Multiple interpretations can be well supported by textual evidence, but it does mean not all interpretations all are equal valid. Some are better supported, more insightful, more comprehensive, more logically consistent than others. The text constrains interpretation without determining a single correct meaning. Now let's move to encouraging openness to multiple perspectives. Perhaps the most valuable lesson of understanding the reader's role is developing intellectual humility and openness. If your interpretation is shaped by your particular perspective, then others' different interpretations aren't simply wrong, but may reveal dimensions of texts you haven't considered. This doesn't mean abandoning your own readings, but enriching them through dialogue with other perspectives. The goal isn't consensus where everyone agrees on one interpretation, but productive conversation where multiple perspectives illuminate different aspects of rich, complex texts. Think of interpreting literature like the Indian parable of the blind man and the elephant, or men and the elephant. Each man touches a different part, the trunk, the leg, the tail, and describes something different. None is wrong, but each is incomplete. Only by sharing perspectives do they approach understanding the whole. Literary interpretation works similarly. Your perspective is valid but partial, and engaging with other perspectives creates a fuller understanding. Now let's move to the three practices for openness. First, engage in dialogue, discuss texts with readers from different backgrounds, ask what they noticed, what confused them, what resonated with them. These conversations often reveal textual elements you overlooked or interpreted differently. Cultivate curiosity when encountering interpretations that differ from your resist dimensions. Then immediately ask what in the text might support this reading, what perspective might make this interpretation logical. Practice reflexivity. Regularly examine your own interpretive assumptions. Why does this interpretation appeal to you? What might you be missing? How might someone else read this passage? This self-examination, thinking about your thinking, develops sophisticated interpretive practice. These practices do not mean you never disagree or that all interpretations are equal. You will still find some readings more persuasive than others, but you will disagree more thoughtfully and productively, understanding why different readers reach different conclusions rather than assuming disagreement means someone is simply wrong. Now let's go to the social nature of interpretation, understanding your role as an active participant in creating literary meaning transforms reading from a solitary extracting of fixed truth into a dynamic social practice of interpretation. You become conscious of yourself as a reader, aware of what you bring to texts, open to what others see and responsible for justifying your interpretations with evidence and reasoning. This awareness doesn't diminish literature's power, but enhances it, showing that great texts are inexhaustible precisely because they generate new meanings in dialogue with successive generations of readers. Your interpretation matters not because it's the single correct reading, but because it contributes to the ongoing collective conversation through which literary meaning emerges and evolves. Every thoughtful, well supported interpretation adds to your understanding. Literary meaning is social, created through dialogue between texts and readers, between readers and other readers across time and cultures. Now, let's move to the summary of key literary theories. As we approach the conclusion of this comprehensive guide, it's valuable to consolidate your understanding with a systematic overview of the major theoretical approaches we have explored. This summary provides a quick reference for distinguishing between theories, understanding their central concerns, and recognizing when each might be most productively applied. Remember that these theories aren't mutually exclusive. Sophisticated literary analysis often combines insights from multiple uh, frameworks to achieve richer, more nuanced interpretations. Think of this summary as your theoretical toolkit, with each tool serving particular purposes and working based on particular interpretive problems. Combining theoretical approaches. While we've presented these theories separately for clarity, the most sophisticated literary criticism often integrates multiple perspectives. A complete understanding of a text might require examining both its formal construction and its historical context, or organizing both psychological dimensions and gender dynamics. This is, or think of theories as um, different tools in a toolbox. Sometimes you need a hammer, sometimes a screwdriver, and sometimes you need both. The skilled craftsperson knows which tool to use when, and the skilled literary critic knows which theoretical approach eliminates which aspects of texts. Do not feel you must choose one theory and stick with it exclusively. The richest interpretations often emerge from synthesizing insights from multiple theoretical frameworks, later text, and your interpretive questions guide which theories you employ. Three ways theories interact. First, complementary theories. Some theories work well together because they address different dimensions of texts. Formalist attention to a structure can be enriched by historical awareness of why certain forms were available or valued. psychological insights into character can be deepened by feminist analysis or how gender shapes psychology. Contrasting theories, sometimes productive tension emerges from applying seemingly incompatible theories. A formalist reading emphasizing textual unity might be challenged by a deconstructive approach revealing contradictions. This tension can generate deeper understanding than either approach alone. Emergent synthesis, the most powerful interpretations, often synthesize insights from multiple theories into new understanding. You might begin with formalist close reading, enrich it with historical context, and deepen it with psychological insight, creating an interpretation that transcends any single framework. Drawing on multiple theories to create something new. Now let's go to conclusion, embracing literary theory as a student. As we conclude this comprehensive exploration of literary theory, it's time to reflect on what you've learned and, more importantly, what you'll do with this knowledge. Literary theory is not an abstract academic exercise divorced from real reading experiences. It is a practical toolkit that enhances every encounter with literature, making you a more perceptive reader, a more sophisticated thinker, and a more effective communicator. The theoretical frameworks you have studied transform literature from entertainment for or information into a rich field for intellectual exploration, critical thinking, and meaningful engagement with fundamental human questions. You now have multiple lenses through which to view literature, multiple frameworks for generating interpretations, and multiple vocabularies for articulating your insights. Then let's move to what literary theory offers you. Throughout this course, you have discovered that literary theory provides multiple benefits that extend far beyond analyzing poems and novels. These advantages shape how you think, read, and understand not just literature, but the world itself. Literary theory offers you richer reading experiences. You now notice more intricacies, subtle patterns, complex ironies, layered meanings, and sophisticated techniques you might have missed without conceptual frameworks. Literature becomes inexhaustible, revealing new dimensions with each theoretical approaches and each reading you'll never exhaust great literature because you now have multiple ways of uh, uh, integrating it. Now let's move to the four major benefits of literary theory. Richer reading experiences, theory equips you to notice more in texts, subtle patterns, complex ironies, layered meanings, and sophisticated techniques you might have missed without conceptual frameworks. Literature becomes inexhaustible, revealing new dimensions with each theoretical approach and each reading. cultural and historical understanding, theoretical approaches, especially historical, cultural, and post-colonial frameworks, deepen your understanding of how literature reflects and shapes societies, how power operates through representation, and how cultural assumptions influence perception and meaning. Enhance critical thinking. Enhance critical thinking. Applying theory develops analytical skills transferable to any field, recognizing patterns, evaluating evidence, constructing arguments, acknowledging complexity, and thinking from multiple perspectives. These cognitive abilities serve you in every intellectual endeavor. Self-awareness and reflection, reader response theory, and other approaches emphasize how your identity, experiences, and assumptions shape interpretation. This self awareness extends beyond the literature, helping you recognize your bias and perspectives in all areas of life. You become more conscious of how you think, why you think as you do, and how others might think differently. Now let's move to from theory to practice active application. Knowledge of literary theory means little without consistent application. The true value emerges when you actively employ theoretical frameworks in your reading, thinking, and writing. This requires moving from passive learning to active but practice making theory a natural part of how you emerge with texts rather than something you apply only when required for assignments. How do you make this transition? Through deliberate, consistent practice. Theory becomes second nature only through repeated application until it becomes habitual, until you automatically read with theoretical awareness. Now let's move to the four practices for active application. First, read theoretically. Approach every text with theoretical questions in mind. Ask not just what happens, but how is this constructed? What perspectives are privileged? What patterns emerge? How does context matter? Let theory guide your attention. Discuss actively, engage in conversations about literature using theoretical vocabulary and concepts, challenge yourself and others to support interpretations with textual evidence and theoretical reasoning. Class discussions become richer when multiple theoretical perspectives interact. Write analytically. Every essay is an opportunity in practice theoretically. Informed analysis develop sophisticated theses, support claims with evidence, apply theoretical concepts, and emerge with interpretive complexity. Writing improves with practice and consciousness. Application of principles. Reflect cautiously after reading, analyzing, or writing. Reflect on the process which theories prove the most illuminating. What did you miss initially? How did discussion change your interpretation. This meta cognitive practice accelerates learning. And develops expertise. Now let's go for theory beyond the classroom. The skills and the perspectives developed through literary theory extend far beyond English courses. You'll find the theoretical thinking available in other humanities courses. History, philosophy, art, history, and religious studies in all benefit from interpretive sophistication, professional contexts, analyzing complex documents, understanding audience, recognizing implicit assumptions, media literacy, critical evaluation, news, advertising, social media, and entertainment, personal relationships, recognizing different perspective, applicating complexity, communicating effectively, and understanding how people's backgrounds shape their worldviews. These are relationship skills that theoretical awareness develops. Now let's move to continuing your development. This course provides a foundation, but becoming an accomplished literary critic requires sustained practice and ongoing learning. Literature and theory are vast fields where you can continually deepen expertise and expand knowledge. Consider these paths for continued growth. Pursue advanced courses focusing on specific periods, genres, authors, or theoretical approaches. Specialized courses allow deeper engagement with particular aspects of literary study, develop in the independent reading practices that include both um, primary literature and literary criticism, read widely across periods, genres, and cultural contexts. Challenge yourself with different cases. Write regularly about literature, formulating essays, informal responses, book reviews, blog posts. Writing clarifies thinking and develops analytical voices. Consider sharing writing in online forms or literary magazines. Now let's go to say that finally engage you with community, join um, or form reading groups, attend the literary events, participate in online discussions, engaging with other readers exposes you to to diverse perspectives and keep literature socially vibrant rather than isolated academic exercise. So, hmm, key quotes on theory as practice. The goal of studying literary theory is not to master a fixed body of knowledge, but to develop a flexible, sophisticated way of thinking about texts, meaning, and interpretation. Theory provides conceptual tools, but you must practice using them to develop genuine skill, like learning a musical instrument or a foreign language. Literary criticism requires sustained active engagement to achieve fluency. This is crucial to understand. You haven't finished learning literary theory, you have begun. Theory isn't in formation to memorize for exams, is practice to develop through sustained engagement. The difference between novice And expert isn't that the expert knows more theories. It's that the expert practical has practiced applying theories so extensively that theoretical thinking becomes automatic, sophisticated, and flexible. Commit to ongoing practice, read actively, discuss thoughtfully, write regularly, reflect continuously. These practices transform theoretical knowledge into critical expertise. Now let's move to a call to active reflective reading. As you move forwards in your literary studies and beyond, carry with you the fundamental insights of this course that reading is an active process of meaning making, that texts reward close attention and theoretical analysis, that multiple valid interpretation can coexist, and that literature provides powerful tools for understanding human experiences, culture, and the language. These insights transform you from a passive consumer of stories into an engaged critical theory capable of sophisticated interpretation and nuanced understanding. You're no longer reading just to find out what happens next. You're reading to understand how texts work, how texts work, what they reveal about human experience, how they participate in cultural conversations, and what they mean in different contexts and to different readers. This active, reflective reading is more demanding than passive consumption, but it's infinitely more rewarding. Literature becomes endless, fascinating when you have frameworks for discovering its depths and complexities. Now let's go to literature's complexity quotes. Literature enriches life not by providing easy answers, but by raising profound questions, not by simplifying experience, but by revealing its complexity, not by confirming what we already know, but by challenging us to see differently. This is what makes literature valuable and what makes a literary study worthwhile. We do not read great literature for simple moral lessons or confirming or comforting certainties. We read it because it challenges us, complicates us, our understanding, and helps us see human experience in new ways. Literary theory has prepared you to engage with these challenges thoughtfully and productively. You've learned to read closely, think critically, argue persuasively, and interpret sophisticatedly. You have discovered that richer resists a simple categorization, that meaning emerges from interaction of texts and readers, and the theoretical frameworks eliminate different dimensions of literary works. Now let's move to your critical voice. Literary theory has prepared you to engage with these challenges thoughtfully and productively. You've learned to read closely, think critically, argue persuasively, and interpret sophisticated, sophistically. You've discovered that great literature resists simple categorization that means emerges from the interaction of texts and readers, and that critical frameworks illuminate different dimensions of literary work. Most importantly, you've begun developing your own critical voice, that unique combination of theoretical knowledge, analytical skill, and personal perspective that distinguishes your interpretation and the contributions to literary conversation. Now let's move to final encouragement. As you continue your studies, remember that literary theory is not a burden to endure, but a gift to embrace. It opens doors to richer reading experiences, deeper understanding of human creativity and culture, and more sophisticated thinking about meaning, interpretation, and communication. Apply these tools actively and reflectively in all human literary encounters, challenging yourself to try different theoretical approaches, to consider perspectives until your own, and to read texts that push your boundaries, engage in ongoing conversations about literature with classmates, professors, and fellow readers. Write regular to clarify and develop your thinking. Most of all, never stop reading. Literature offers inexhaustible opportunities for discovery, insight, and intellectual growth. Your journey into um, intellectual or literary theory has just begun. Read well, think critically, and let literature transforms how you or transform how you see the world. Oh, thank you for your attention and commitment to this comprehensive exploration of literary theory. You now possess powerful tools for engaging with literature at sophisticated levels. Use them well, practice them consistently, and share them generously. The world needs thoughtful, critical readers who can engage with complex text, appreciative multiple perspectives, and contribute meaningful insights to ongoing cultural conversations. Go forth and read with new eyes, analyze with theoretical frameworks, write with clarity and sophistication, and never stop discovering the riches that literature offers. Your education in literary theory has become may it be a lifelong journey of discovery and growth. Thank you once again.